In 1845, 2 ships went missing. This would happen. Hey everybody, welcome back to Comic Universe, the only nerd-centric thing you need in your life. Here once again with C-Dubs.
What's up, guys?
And we're going to be doing something a little different.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean,
well, kind of in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, but... I mean, again, if you've been on the channel long enough, you kind of know what to expect. We are random. We do have certain nerd culture, preferences, and horror happens to be one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we have done a couple of shows in the past, so here we go. Tell them what we're doing.
Yeah. So, for those who are not in the know, last week, by the time I was recording, a show came on by the name of The Terror, which is based off of a novel, and based off of something else, which I'll get into in a moment, about these 2 ships that went missing in the Arctic, trying to get to an Arctic passageway into Asia. And this is the story of that crew that went missing. And this was actually, fun fact, an actual historical event. Now, granted, there are some fictionalized moments,
of course,
but the 2 ships did go missing. The crew was never found, and the author of the book, of the original novel, took that and made a kind of like a horror story out of it.
Right.
It's much like how everyone kind of like does these cool like fictionalized versions of historical events, like the disappearance of the Roanoke,
right,
or the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia, which. So there you go. So The Terror premiered Monday, and Dubs and I watched it. Well, I watched it a little later because reasons.
Right.
So Dubs, what did you think of The Terror? At least for the pilot.
Well, for the pilot, it was 2 hours, which is kind of long for most pilots. So I liked it. It was a little slow, so it is a slow burn. It's a lot of building of character, getting to know the crew, and just understanding the era in which the movie is in, or the show is in. It's on ABC, so the AMC, that's what I meant. And it's top notch. The acting is great. It's really good, to be honest with you. The acting. My biggest complaint, really, I'm gonna hit you with the negative first before I go on to the positives. And it's me really nitpicking, and it slightly took me out of the story. And again, it could just be because it's the plot, since it's the pilot episode. Since it's a pilot episode, maybe the funds aren't the best, if you will. So maybe there's something that it will get better over time. But there were some times where I felt like it was a set, like especially like when they're out in the ice.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a set. And there's one thing I think the show can really do better is there's no fog on their breath, if you will, when they're talking, or when they're out in the cold. And I know it's really nitpicking, but it really took me out of the story. It's like, man, they're freaking in Alaska, or they're in the Arctic. It should be, freezing. They should seem cold, So there were times where they just, and I get it, that's just a secondary side part of the show, but it just really, it was like, come on. Where it just would make me immerse more into that universe, if you will. But something that I'm looking forward about the show is, initially when I was watching it, I went into it kind of blind. You told me about it. I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. Especially when, who it's associated with. I was like, oh, cool. So I really just thought it was going to be like a seclusion story, like a story of these people. They're stuck on the ice, and they're just basically slowly losing food, water, and going mad, of isolations. And I think we're going to get some of that, okay, because I can kind of already see it happening.
Yeah.
And there's clearly some sort of seeing some people dying and having visions and things like that. So we're definitely going to get some of that. But there was something that I didn't see coming that I was like, whoa, okay, now you got my interest. And I'll let you get to that, tell them what we see, but I'm telling you, when you guys see this part of the show, and unfortunately it happens like 3/4 of the way through before we actually get it, I'm just like, what the hell? It's like, okay, I'm invested. And at least I'm going to give it 3, maybe 4 episodes before I really decide if I'm fully invested or not, just because of how slow the burn was. But overall, I really dug it. I did like it. I'll give it another shot.
Yeah. For those who are wondering what C-Dubs was talking about, is that, you see, it's not just the cold hunting them, it's something else.
Yeah,
something big.
Yeah.
Like, it is obviously a horror show, and it is done by Ridley Scott, and I know Ridley Scott has not had the best track record, Alien Covenant, but I feel like this, so far, yes, it is a slow burn, but this extra element, this is where the fictionalized part is that this creature, we don't know what it is. In fact, I love the whole first appearance of it, because you don't get a quick, even if you pause it, you can't really make out what it is, because it just happens.
It happens really quickly, and it's dark, and it's snowing, and it's crazy. As of now, I'm calling it a polar bear.
It ain't no polar bear.
I know, but at least that's what they think it is right now.
Yeah.
They think that's what they think it is at the moment. So.
It's also noted that there is some great horror in here, and if you're more like in your face kind of horror, you're not gonna get that. I should mention, but there is some great delivery of horror.
Yeah, of course.
Like in the first episode, where this young boy is dying from an injury, and he's lying, and the surgeon's talking to him, like, you're gonna feel a lot of peace when you pass on. I've seen it before, and you're not gonna feel anything. He just starts screaming bloody murder. And he's just screaming, he wants us to run, he wants us to run. And it's this image he's seeing. It's just staring back at him of this man in a loincloth. You don't know what's going on, but the way the actor delivers those lines, you're like, oh, wow, oh yeah.
I was like, okay, let's get the hell out of here. Because if horror movies have taught us one thing, is if that's happening to somebody, and it's probably going to come true.
Yeah. The actors in here are all great, all come from great shows. You've got Ciarán Hinds, I know I'm mispronouncing that name. He comes from Game of Thrones. Jared Harris, who is our main cast. Most of you guys would know him best. He has been in a ton of movies. Most notably, he was Moriarty in the second Guy Pearce Sherlock Holmes movie.
Right.
But that's where most of you guys will remember him best. He's done a lot of other great roles. Travis, I can't remember his last name, but he's from The Outsider. A lot of these actors are, you know them from certain roles and from very big shows, and they really bring a lot of talent here.
Yeah.
Especially Jared Harris's character, who is going through kind of a traumatic event, and he's moving on with his life. And he already knows that we should have left a long time ago. Not because he doesn't believe there's a monster out there. It's more like, this is the Arctic. It even says in the show, this place wants us dead.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a couple of actually cool things more thinking about it. Like the scene when the boats first get kind of starting to get frozen in the ice, and the propeller gets frozen and has a block of ice installed in it. And so basically, one of the guys, they just kind of suit him up in a makeshift diver suit, and they lower him down into the Arctic to chip away at the ice on the propeller. And you get this feeling of, even though he's in this vast ocean, you feel like it's really secluded, and he's kind of, you can see it in, the actor does a really good job of just being in the helmet, if you will. He's kind of like feeling the pressure of being underwater, and he's freezing, and then all of a sudden he sees this shape floating in the water, and it turns out to be one of the characters who went overboard earlier, and he's just like freaking out, and you almost don't know what to expect, because again, I mean, at least for myself, I went in kind of blind, and I was hoping for something either supernatural or a monster or a beast of some sort. So I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And nothing really happens other than it freaks him out, but you really get immersed in that scene. And you feel like you're in that freaking dive helmet. So it's like really great scenes like that.
And I think that was a point where it really, especially where that character, when that crewman goes underwater, because you don't need a monster to kill you in the cold. The cold can do it just fine.
Oh, sure. And then you're wondering about, was there going to be a whale? Is there going to be a shark? Was something going to grab him? Like, I was worried about all of the above.
Yeah. And they even show, like, like, this is true for those who, and probably some of you who are subscribers or viewers out there who do live in, like, cold weather, especially, like, if you live in Alaska or Canada or something like that. You go in the water, and you don't get out in, like, less than, like, 2 minutes, or shorter than that even. You die.
Yeah.
You don't, when you go into the water, you don't come, there's little chance of you coming back up.
Right, and he does have a dive suit, but we're talking like This is the early 1900s, maybe.
1800s. This is the mid 1800s.
Okay, so 1800s. So the technology wasn't all there. We're talking. It looked like he had a potato sack and a metal fishbowl on his head. So that the cold was just piercing straight to the bones. He was hyperventilating, not enough oxygen, and then to see a dead body floating in the water, dude, the dude was freaking out, man. And it's definitely a good scene. That scene alone, I think, really helps the show. Like I said, the more I think about it, there's a lot of good set pieces that do stand out. There's another scene later on in the film, or I keep calling it a film, later on in the show, that there's a storm coming in. Okay, and they've been hearing these sounds.
And at first, like, oh, it's the wind, it's just like, and it's a hailstorm.
Yeah, it turns out to be a hailstorm. We're talking like the size of coconuts falling down. I'm like, and then they get into these leather tents, and I'm just like, man, that's not enough, man. I live in Florida, and we get some pretty bad hailstorms from time to time. I was like, I can only imagine what it's going to be like there. Yeah. I was like, get under the boat, and they happen to get back to their camp or whatnot, whatever you want to call it, and shit's just wrecked. So they're like, oh, someone, a bear, polar bear, a monster, or something, something came through and messed this place up. So while the storm is coming, they hear like this breathing and
there's just roar.
Yeah, and
you see, like a lot of these guys, like they say, like they've seen combat and all that,
right?
And you see on their faces,
what is that?
Yeah, like they're clearly freaked out, like.
And then there's somebody kind of pops up over the ridge. Someone or something pops up over the ridge, and it's like a really quick scene. It's like boom, and they shoot him, and you're just like, what the hell was that? Yeah. And then they start yelling for the doctor, so you're quick to assume, okay, so they shot someone. Yeah. And it turns out to be an Eskimo, part of the native, the native that lives there. Yeah. But something I caught on, at least I think I caught on. I don't know if you did as well. Is unfortunately that spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it. That particular character does get shot and gets sick really quick, and he's basically then dies. Yeah. But while he's being attended to by the people, just the way that he kind of is breathing, kind of sounded like the monster, but softer. Yeah. I don't know if you picked up on that, but I did. Yeah. And I rewound it back to the part, and it sounds almost identical. Yeah. So I don't know if they turn into them or if those things. I know you have an idea of what the show is, but for me, going into it blind, I was like, oh, maybe there's something kind of connection. And then we find out that there's some sort of surgical procedures that this guy has been through because his tongue was removed. Yeah. Okay, but he was talking pretty clearly, granted in their language, but he was talking pretty clearly. So that was kind of interesting too, I thought. So yeah. I don't know if you caught on to any of that or thought of any of that, but it's definitely interesting because, if you just hold your tongue, you can't even really talk, let alone cut your tongue out.
The other thing, like in here, is that obviously there's going to be a lot of inner character drama, and especially you see that with the two captains, and you've got one who's like, he's very much like, I can make, we can make this, God's on our side and all that, and I was like, God ain't out here right now, buddy. Right. And the other, Jared Harris's character, he is very realistic of, we should have left. We shouldn't even, this was a bad idea if we keep going, and sure enough it is. So it's interesting to note that, it is going to be very interpersonal drama, but my thing is, when I was watching this, is this just going to be a mini-series? Because I don't know how long you could drag this out.
True, yeah.
And there was only the one book, it's not a whole book series. The creature we see, again, it's such great, cinematography, just seeing this thing just waltz out in the middle, like even if you pause it, you can't make it out what it is.
Right.
Picks a dude up without it, with just its jaws or whatever, and just starts ripping into through his back, and you're in that moment of what the
right. Yeah. And again, up until this point, and again, myself, it could just be me, but I was like, I knew obviously it was more than just a polar bear, but I'm still thinking in terms of a polar bear. And it kind of grip you see a hand kind of for a quick second grip on the guy, and polar bears can't really grip. So I was like,
it's still on all fours.
And it's still on all. I was like, wait, what? So even if it lifted just one hand and or paw, it still just can't grip.
What reminded me of? Remind me of the creature from The Ritual.
The Ritual, yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. It's like, okay, so is it on all fours and has an extra limb? Or did that come out of his head? Where did this come out? I was like, did it stand up? I'm like, trying to play it, and I rewound it a couple of times, and like you said, it's really difficult to really see what it is. They do a really good job on that. So again, I mean, this show is got more to it than I thought in my first viewing. But the more I think about it, it actually had a few good set scenes, and I can forgive some of the slow burn.
I will say also that you're right, it does feel like, and maybe they'll fix it later on, but, you know, it's supposed to be, this is the, you know, one place man should never go.
Right.
And a lot of the scenes in here, like, you don't get the sense of this is, not until, like, the second half, but and some other scenes, but some of the scenes on the ship, and when they're just playing kickball in the snow, it's like, guys, this is kind of a harsh environment. We should really kind of hit that home. And probably it will when we get later on, when you know, everything's cool when you've got, you know, food and rations.
Yeah, I mean, and plus, I guess maybe when it first happens, and all the workers and sailors, they're allowed to just kind of not have to work anymore. Yeah. I guess they'll get to play some kickball or soccer or whatever, football for our international audience. You know, even if you're in the Arctic, it's a good time. It's a break, essentially. So it's like, yay, let's go have fun. So I can kind of see that. But like you said, I'm sure we're going to see that moving on. But the character that dies, the local or the village people, if you will, his daughter's a part of the scene, and there's a couple of things that I caught on to. Like, she really wanted to before her dad died, she wanted to bring him out, because I felt like it, I don't know if they fully explained it, but like it seemed like in their culture, he had to die outside for his spirit to be free. So there may be something there. It could end up being some sort of supernatural thing adding to it. Maybe the guy's spirit is locked within the boat or something. We may get something there. I don't know for sure, but you know, she was adamant on he needs to be outside before he dies, or his spirit can't go anywhere. Yeah. And then she, after her dad passes, and she's just devastated. And one of the captains, he's, if we're going to classify them good captain, bad captain, the good captain, he's kind of talking to her, and he's like trying to communicate. He speaks their language. And she's basically, he's like, if you guys don't go now, you're going to disappear. You're done. You're gone. Yeah. She just basically she says disappear, right? Yeah. You're going to disappear. And he kind of takes a step back. He's like, okay. And then, of course, the other captain and crew members are like, what is she saying? He tells it to them, and their looks on their faces like, get this chick out of here. Yeah. You know, and the bad captain is like, get her off my boat now. Yeah. And so it's going to be kind of interesting to see where it goes. Again, I'm going to give it a couple of more episodes before I really determine if it's something I want to continue with. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, like, I'm certainly way more invested in this than I am in Walking Dead recently. So I'm definitely going to give this a look. My question is, like, how long can you drag this out? Because like, people have been saying it's a series, but I feel like it's going to be more like mini-series, like maybe a 12 episode.
Well, I mean, you know, you can always add to the mythology of a story, you know, for good or bad. You know, I haven't read the original source material, so I really can't judge. And obviously, I wasn't there, so I mean, maybe they can drag it out. Okay, this season is the monster we deal with. The next season, they get to the actual village people, and they kind of go away from just being on the boat. You know, they could go and be a part of the people that live there. So who knows what they're going to do? Is there going to be a third boat that shows up? And they could change things. So they can drag it out, but I would say maybe 3, maybe if they really, really stretch it, and it'll probably lose real interest, probably like 5. But I couldn't see it going any more past that. I can see it maybe at least 2-3 seasons, if you will, considering how slow the first episode was and the beginning half of it. If they continue that trend, who knows how long they can drag it out for, you know?
I mean, remember when they called, what was it, that other show that had the guy who played House in it?
Oh, yeah.
It called that a series when really it was just more of a mini-series.
So, I mean, it is possible to just be a mini-series.
Yeah, it had Tom Hiddleston as the main character in there.
Right. So, I mean, it is possible.
Yeah, like, maybe, like, they're...
Only time will tell on that one, though.
But that was more of a mini-series, but they called it a series. Same with, like, I think that's the same thing they're doing with McMafia, is that it's a mini-series, but I don't know about that one entirely. So maybe they're saying series when really it's mini-series.
That's possible. I mean, they just want to get more people invested.
You know, we've got 2 Walking Dead shows, and, you know, ratings have been...
Right. You know, But but we're also talking about like when you're the top rated show and the ratings are diving, and if you're still probably somewhere in here. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people that are still super invested. It's not obviously what it once was, but how long has it been on now? What, 5, 10 years? I don't even know. Like it's been on forever. So I mean, I give it did its thing, and it's probably the next couple of years it'll be over anyway. So we're talking about Walking Dead, obviously, but the Terror. If I was gonna give it a rating, I'd probably give it a low 3 right now. But it has my interest. That's really all that matters. Is by the end of it, I was like, okay, you got my interest. I'll see what happens. And sometimes you can either make or break in the first episode, and it didn't either. Okay, but it did enough to where I'm like, okay, I'll see what this says. What's gonna happen next? So
I'm gonna go same with 3 on that, because I feel like what much you said is that it didn't make or break, but it definitely says, hey, stick around, because this definitely has the atmosphere. It definitely has the mystery going on, and it has a lot of potential, especially with the actors behind it and the crew behind it. Right. So,
and the station. I mean, you say what you want about Walking Dead. They do produce. AMC, they produce good TV from Breaking Bad. I'm going to include Walking Dead. It's good. It's well made. Sure, it may just sometimes be the same shit over and over again. Where now this group of bad guys they're going to try and eat us, and now that group of bad guys wants to steal our stuff. Might be the same stuff over and over again, but it's still well produced, good acting, all of the above. So I don't expect anything less from this show. It's just a matter of the writing and how far they stretch it out. If it keeps my interest. Well, guys, if you've seen it, let us know what you thought. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Let us know. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the video, and click that little notification bell, guys. And
once again, see you once more in the universe.